Welcome to the Valley Today, a public service presentation of KAIL TV. Our journeys take us to the West Hills of Colinga. There in the brush lives the horned toad. This creature was prevalent before agriculture started in the valley, but now it lives in the unpopulated areas untouched by humans. Join us as we visit with Kathy Seitz, horned toad wrangler, and learn about these magnificent creatures. The Colinga horned toad, up next on the Valley Today. You ready to go, Kathy?
Sure.
All right. Well, we've got a special guest with us today. We are somewhere in parts unknown between Colinga and the ocean.
Yeah.
And we're up here on your family's property.
We are, and it's about a perfect day for catching some horned toads.
Yeah. And we are with Kathy Seitz, and Kathy has been gracious enough to give us time, and it took a while to get here. But you know what? You're living in God's country. This is really nice. This is really
beautiful.
Pretty. We're about, what, 2,500 feet?
We're about maybe 2,000 here. It goes up pretty fast from here.
And this is an interesting story. We are talking about horned toads and the horned toad derby in Colinga that you have once a year. And you guys are the eminent suppliers of horned toads.
We are the eminent suppliers since they went on the protected list. I think the Chamber of Commerce one year purchased them from a source that had permit, and that didn't work out so well for them. And we have been getting the horned toads for them ever since, about 30 years now.
Didn't work out for the Chamber, or didn't work out for the horned toads?
Didn't work out for the Chamber.
Yeah.
I think actually the woman that had the permit passed away, and they didn't renew her permit, and there's really no source for them here in California.
Now this is indeed an endangered species?
They are protected.
They're protected, okay.
And I think it's kind of hard to quantify exactly how many of them there are, because they're pretty elusive. It's hard to get a count on them.
Right. But you probably have them running all over this ranch here.
We think so.
Yeah.
It takes, as I've been told by real experts, that it takes, if you find one, there's generally 25. It takes a minimum of 25 toads to keep a colony flourishing.
Now let's bring this right up here. Come on up here. Hold that toad right up to the lens. Look at this guy. We
just found this little guy, and this one isn't going to go to the derby. We're going to catch and release this little fella.
Yeah.
He'd do fine, but I think he might be a little bit small to put a saddle on.
Yeah.
Is my only concern.
So 8 seconds on a horned toad, just like the movie?
Yeah, that's right. If you could stay on for 8 seconds, you're good.
It's really a very fascinating creature. He's just, he's got these pronounced little crown on the back of his head. And he's behaving himself pretty well. You thought he would have scampered off your hand and disappeared into the brush, huh?
Well, he's going to in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And they're kind of hard to spot, though, as you can see.
He's the same color as the ground.
We're going to go ahead and turn this little guy loose. But,
okay.
the only reason I spotted him is because he was moving. But
and there he goes.
As you'll see, if he's still, you're not really gonna.
Where is he? He's right here. He's scampering off into this.
Back into the, and that's where they like to live.
So that's where you would typically find them, is in this. What is this, buckwheat?
That's buckwheat there, and the buckwheat is the food supply for their main source of groceries, which are ants, the harvester ants.
And there's plenty of black ants.
There are. This particular spot, we have a really good supply, a lot of colonies of black ants. So
you'd mentioned something interesting, that you have caught perhaps the same toad every year to go back to the derby, and you had said that he was a consummate winner.
Yeah, he was a consummate winner. And that particular toad was my husband's nemesis. That toad got away from him probably half a dozen times in the same spot.
Get that off the mic there.
In the same spot, he'd come up in the Jeep, by himself a couple times and see the toad, and it'd get away from him down a hole or into the brush, deep brush. in the same spot every time. And finally, he left the Jeep at the main road, walked up, and he did end up catching him. But he had a very distinct curved horn, and it was white as well.
Uh-huh.
And that particular horned toad won the Derby every race that year. Well, we caught the same horned toad twice more for 2 more Derbies. And I'm telling you, I'd never seen a horned toad catch air, but that horned toad literally caught air. There's a little spot right down here coming up in the Jeep, and we seen that horned toad move, and it was going so fast when it went off the bank. It was literally, and that's not even a Paul Bunyan tale. That's the truth. And we did catch it. I'm going, it's that same doggone toad.
Oh my word, that's funny.
Yeah.
You've got a couple more toads here, and perhaps will either one of these run in the race?
Now these we're going to keep here.
Mm-hmm. And is that about the average size, adult size for a?
This is a good one.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the biggest one we've caught, but this is very respectable size. A really
look at his belly. Look at that.
A really big one.
That is so pretty.
Can be as much as 5 inches from vent, which is right here at the base of the tail, to their nose.
Oh, really?
And this one, it looks to me to be about 3.5 or 4.
Uh-huh. How long do these guys live?
There is a little, I'm thinking about 12, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
They say that they have evidence that they've lived as long as 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely a mature female right here.
Mm-hmm.
And she is, she's probably in that 8, 9-year-old range.
Mm-hmm. And do they live in groups? Are they solitary animals? Or?
They're solitary.
Mm-hmm. They only get together when they're breeding, huh?
They only get together when they're breeding, and that's this time of year, and that's why we're able to find them, actually.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason they're going to be in the open like that is if they're feeding or breeding.
Mm-hmm. So you have to come out here, and you actually have to go through the brush and have because they've got to be hard to spot.
They are hard to spot unless they move,
Mm-hmm.
and you just kind of want to get one to move, catch it out of your peripheral vision. If they're still, 9 times out of 10, unless they've silhouetted themselves on something inadvertently, you're not going to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not like a blue belly lizard or something that will run and keep on running.
Yeah.
Their MO and their defense is to run a short distance, 5, 10 feet, and stop and freeze and trust that their camouflage is going to work for them.
Did you have any of these as pets as a kid?
No, we didn't try to keep any as pets.
Yeah.
Their food source is pretty much exclusively the harvester ants.
Yeah.
And it's not easy they're very hard to keep in captivity.
Yeah.
People, I've had reports of people keeping them several years, but you're not going to get one to...
Inhumane to do that, though.
Yeah, there's no reason to do that.
Seeing as how they got such a nice environment here, this is really what they're built for, is to live in this ecosystem.
They are perfectly suited for what they do. That's for sure.
And all on ants, huh? They just live on ants?
That they will eat a beetle or a bug. They like, at home, I'll throw a couple roly-poly bugs in, and they seem to, apparently they're a good source of calcium for them. And they will eat them.
But they prefer the black ants.
They prefer the black ants. There's, I don't know if it's formic acid or what it is that the ants have.
Well, it's interesting, the one that you just let go, you had said that it had been eating all morning. So how many ants? Well, just what? Its body weight in ants?
I think so.
Yeah?
I think so. That little guy was, it had a pretty fat belly. And then this one here, he came, we caught him just last weekend, and we caught him at a higher elevation. And the ants up there are just starting to move. The buckwheat hasn't dried enough yet for the ants to harvest. And therefore the the horned toads haven't been eating for as long. These down here have been awake several weeks. And you can also see how much darker he is.
Yeah.
He hasn't been out in the sunlight for very long.
And his horns are very pronounced. Got a lot of red on these horns back here.
He does, and that's just sort of a predominant, just an individual characteristic.
Oh, okay.
They will change depending on their environment. They're somewhat, like a chameleon, somewhat. But it takes, you're not going to set it down. It's going to change colors, obviously.
Right. They're already camouflaged to the eco, so.
They are, but there are distinct differences in them.
Oh yeah, look at the difference between the two. Is this one's the bigger one's female?
The bigger one is female. She's very round.
And she's going to give birth eventually, right?
She will. And another characteristic of the females, they're narrower through the base of the tail relative to size.
Oh, okay.
Like this skinny little guy here, the base of his tail is as wide as hers.
Wow.
And it's a younger toad. They're a little longer and leaner, the males.
How come they didn't call them horned lizards? Why do they call them horned toads?
Because we're not in Texas, that's why. They're only horned lizards in Texas.
Oh, okay. So the Texans got it right, and everybody else got it wrong, huh?
Well,
I mean, technically they're lizards, not toads.
That's true.
Is that a California thing, you think?
I think it's a California.
Yeah?
I think that's a California
Horned
thing, and that's
toads.
actually our high school mascot.
Right. For
Colinga
Colinga
horned
High
toads.
School, yeah.
It is.
The horned toads.
It is.
So how many animals do you have running in this event?
Well, we have 12 at this point.
And will Vegas come out and put big dollars on their favorites?
You know, the state kind of frowns on that. They used to let us do parimutuel betting on the horned toads, and they put a stop to that several years ago.
But if it's for raising money for charity, I suppose that would be okay, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm an advocate for that,
Yeah,
but they haven't convinced Sacramento of that yet.
Yeah. Here they are here. Look at these guys.
Oh yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, that
actually
is,
are nice
that is
creatures,
a beauty.
you know?
They are. It's amazing how quickly they adapt to being fed. They're kind of like dogs when they hear they hear the ants drop, they come running.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's just.
That's right. The sound of a can opener brings them every time.
Yeah. Where do they get water here? Do they get water off the brush?
Nope. They get it all from the ants.
Oh,
Everything
okay.
they need
Is from the ants.
That's where they get all their moisture. They have no need of water whatsoever.
So how many ants can they eat in a day?
Buckets.
Buckets?
Hundreds. Each horned toad can literally eat several hundred ants a day.
So you come into here and you're looking at this buckwheat, and this is primarily where you're going to harvest the ants from, and just kind of stir them up a little and let them congregate, and then get them into a Tupperware, huh?
Yep, we put them in Tupperware, and actually I have to say that's kind of a new invention we've developed the last few years. We used to come up twice a day and get fresh ants for them morning and evening. And we've discovered that if you harvest the ants and put them immediately into an ice chest, they'll kind of go into dormancy, and you can get them to survive, about 48 hours that way.
Wow.
It saves a few trips up the hill.
Yeah, because it did take us a while to come off the road. It took us about a half an hour to get up here.
Yeah.
But it was just an absolutely beautiful trip, and here you are, going 45 degrees. I'm sitting in the back of the truck. Oh!
Hang on, Bob.
Yeah, but it's beautiful here. I mean, you can't beat this. I'm not hearing any traffic. I'm not hearing anything other than, just the great outdoors.
Yeah, it's a great place to grow up, and great place for kids. My kids and my grandkids have a great time up here.
Yeah. You're running cattle on this place, right?
We do run cattle on the ranch, yes.
And I guess you can support so many head per acre, or?
Yeah, we don't. We have outside cattle right now. A gentleman that raises Red Angus, registered Red Angus. He brings them up here for about 9 months of the year, and out of Bakersfield, and so we're not running any of our own cattle up here right now. But yeah, it is a working cow ranch.
I'm trying to wrap my head around 4,000 acres, and for you to be able to see all your property, it must take a day just to go from one end of the property to the other with this rugged terrain and the elevation changes.
It's slow. It's you know, it's all 4-wheel drive, and you putt along. There's a, you know, I've never thought to count how many miles of jeep roads are on this ranch, but it's pretty significant.
Yeah. Does the property primarily run east-west or north-south, or is it just one big piece of ground?
One big piece of ground. Yeah, it's a block.
Yeah.
And the back of the ranch looks off over into the Priest Valley area and 198, and you look over across into the Parkfield area. And
So
then this
so
side,
from your west side of your property, you can see, is that 25 that goes across?
198.
198. Okay.
198 between King City and Colinga.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah.
This is absolutely fantastic.
And then back this direction, you could see 3 Rocks, where Joaquin Murrieta had his hideout.
Now, where is that? Right there at the? It's illuminated at the base of the last hill. Is that it there, or?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
So you gave up horses because it's just easier to 4-wheel drive, huh?
It's easier to 4-wheel drive, but you know, life.
Yeah.
You have to work for a living.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't really you know, we don't really need the horses right now. The cowman takes care of his livestock. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was horseback every day.
I bet your friends love to come and visit and just hang out here.
They did. It was something real different for them to do.
Yeah.
You know, I think sometimes I things we take for granted. You know, you scare the heck out of your friends, and you know, take off down a hill like a mountain goat, and they're slipping and sliding, and you know, snakes. we never thought anything about it, but
I can imagine. Well, you pointed out a deer. I didn't see it, but you pointed out a deer when we were coming up this road, and so I can imagine the wildlife is rattlesnakes, probably skunk, possum, deer, bobcat,
raccoon,
coyote,
mountain lions.
Mountain lions.
Yeah. We've got turkeys, badger.
And a lot of wild pig.
A wild pig, lots of wild pig.
Wow.
Lead me into the festival, guys.
Yeah. What about? So we're coming up on the Colinga. What is the Colinga Festival?
Colinga Horn-Toad Derby.
The Horn-Toad Derby.
The Horn-Toad Derby.
But that brings that's the whole thing for the year for Colinga, isn't it?
That is our. Everybody has a festival. Gilroy and their garlic, and I think Mendota has a cantaloupe festival.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a festival.
Right.
Well, we have the Horn-Toad.
Yeah.
Horn-Toad Derby. That's our annual festival, and that's when most of the classes have their class reunions and you know, family reunions and things like that. And they've been doing that since, well, gosh, when did the Horn-Toad Derby start? I should know that. Before the war, they did. I think the only time they stopped was after was World War II.
Mm-hmm. And your dad used to go and collect these for the Derby before you got involved in it, right?
He did. He started about 1981, right when they became protected. Mm-hmm. And shortly, well, I'm the youngest of 4, so I was the only one left at home. I was still under house rule. I didn't have much choice at the time.
So you and Dad went out and you went horn-toad catching with your dad, huh?
we went horn-toad catching.
And so the neat thing about this whole thing and getting to the Derby and then beyond that is after the Derby, you'll repatriate all these horn-toads. You'll bring them back to probably close to where you found them.
Yes.
And let them go?
Yep. They will be...
now see, the animal lovers, they'll love that part. Where you get to let them go, you know?
Yeah, we get to let them go, and they all... I mean, I'm not saying I turn them under the same exact bush I caught them under.
But close.
But yeah, they travel. I mean, a horn-toad will travel a mile on
Are
their
they
own.
territorial?
No.
With each other?
No.
No?
No.
Yeah?
They're not territorial at all. But they definitely get turned back within 100-yard radius of where they're
Yeah.
caught. And believe it or not, we actually can tell the difference between them. We take pictures of them when we catch them, for one thing. So
I'm
we
surprised
know.
you don't tag them and put a radio beacon on them and see where they're moving. Oh, look, he moved 5 feet in the last year.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting
Yeah.
to do.
But you're able to identify them even by not doing any markings on them or anything. You let them go and you say, oh yeah, I remember him from last year.
We're able to identify them, and I take my cell phone or digital camera, and when we catch them, and I'll take a picture of everyone and the
And you can-
location where they're caught.
And you
I
can tell the
difference.
differences.
Yes, I can.
Wow. And they're all probably slight variations in color and markings. And oh, that's
Yeah.
really very interesting.
Like there's one in here. There's one in here that came off the high ridge, and we're gonna have to take him back up there when we turn him loose.
Yeah.
And he came from way up there.
And maybe that's why his color's a little different.
Very well could be. But this gal here, she was caught just right over this next little knoll up here.
So when
on
you
the
go
right
out
side of the road.
looking for them, how long does it take you to beat the bushes and find
Wow,
them?
that's
I mean, you got days.
that's a very good question.
Do you have days in this where some days you won't find any, and other days you'll find 3 or 4 or 5?
Yes, we've been very lucky this year with the temperature. They're very much temperature driven, and they don't like it much cooler than 80 or much hotter than 90 as far as
So they're
being
very
active.
particular.
They're very particular.
Yeah.
Too hot, they're buried. Too cold, they're buried. They're very particular, and if the weather gods just aren't in your favor,
You're not gonna find them.
It is grueling to
So
say the
have there
least.
been any years where you've had the Derby and you haven't had enough competitors?
We had a scary one a couple years ago. We only brought to town 7 toads, and it was grueling. It was 113 degrees.
Oh my word.
And what we did is we went up. It was only the week before Derby, and we had no toads whatsoever.
Well, that's
And
not
we
a good
went
thing.
up to we went up to an area that tends to have a lot of them, and we spent the night up there. And we got up as soon as daybreak, and by 7 in the morning, we had the 7 toads, and those are the only toads we've seen all year.
Wow.
But it was just by being up there high where it was cooler, the coolest area of the ranch, extremely early in the morning, after weekends of 12-hour days.
Well, we're running out of time, Kathy, but certainly the Horned Toad Derby is when the last? It's Labor Day weekend?
Memorial Day
Memorial
weekend.
Day weekend.
Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
And it starts, the races start on Friday. I believe the carnival and the food concessions are open on the previous Wednesday, but they don't start toad races until Friday. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of activities for everybody, and live horned toad races several times a day. And it's everybody needs to come out,
Yeah.
listen to some music.
They need to come out and support Colinga and see these fantastic creatures. They're pretty good runners too, aren't they?
They are very fast,
Yeah.
actually. They can move.
So you got a starting gate, you open it up, and then they take off, huh?
Well, we haven't quite figured out how to keep them on the track. So what they actually do is they put them in the middle of a circle.
Yeah.
And
And
the
then
first-
whoever gets out of the circle
Whoever
is
gets out of the circle is
the
winner.
winner. Winner,
Yeah.
chicken
They
dinner.
won't stay in their lanes when
Yeah.
you put them on a straight track.
Yeah.